This is Get Real with Chris and Mark. I'm Chris Hill, and this is Mark Frisco. And today we get to talk about a very serious topic today. I think that's kind of our thing, right? Like today, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's serious. I think that it's something that needs to be discussed. And I mean, it's something that we deal with a lot locally and everywhere, right? So why don't we talk about what brought this topic
I think
up?
it's a good idea, right?
So first of all, we had a podcast listener comment.
Yes.
That said that, hey, you should talk about suicide awareness, right?
Right.
And then second to that, we had one of the BayNet employees who actually talked the most recent bridge jumper off of the bridge, right?
Wow.
Which was an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And I think, the craziest thing about that to me is that, I don't know, does everybody know the story? Did we talk about that on here
No,
before?
I don't think we did. I don't think we actually covered it. Like, you know.
So
I want to hear.
Are you familiar with the story?
Not at all. So you're like a little bit here or there that I heard,
Gotcha.
but nothing big.
Long story short, there was a gentleman walking up the Solomon's Bridge. The individual, her name's Tanya, that is a stringer for the BayNet, was driving by. She's an Uber driver full time. So she's driving by. She sees this guy walking up the bridge.
Okay.
In her mind, she was like, oh, maybe he's just walking across. Well, you're not supposed to be walking across.
Right.
So these things are reeling through her head. She gets to the other side of the bridge, says, you know what? I should turn around and go back.
Hold on. That's
right.
Right away. I know where this is going, but that's
so
powerful, right?
She turns around, she goes back the other direction, and when she gets there, the gentleman had just started to step over one edge or one side, one of the what do you call it, the barriers, to potentially jump. So she hops out her car and she says, hey, you shouldn't do that. They have this whole conversation back and forth. Long story short, she grabs a hold of him and says, hey, if you're going in the water, I'm going in the water too.
Wow.
And she says, by the way, I'm scared of heights, and I don't want to go in the water. I can't swim, but I can't let you go. So long story short, they step back from the wall. What's really interesting about this story, so she saved the person.
By the way,
right?
Amazing, right? Amazing story, right? Like
amazing, yeah.
Superhero story.
So she saves the person. But what's really interesting is that she was able to drive all the way off the bridge and all the way back
because she had to.
And nobody else stopped.
Nobody else did it,
That's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
Like, why did no one else stop? Now, there's like what do they call it? There's like a law that they say where it's like people think like somebody else is going to do it. I don't need to stop. Somebody else is going to stop. Or somebody would have already stopped.
I get
I'm sure somebody already stopped.
Right.
And that's the thought that goes through everybody's mind. So I want to lead this off with, if you see someone that even might slightly be in distress, stop.
Yeah.
Stop and talk to them. Because at the end of the day, that's what it takes to save a life. On the subject that we're on right now.
Yeah, no,
that's what it takes to save a life.
So this is this is probably a more somber conversation. A lot of people maybe people are tuning out left and right, or left.
Right.
But I think it's interesting that, big decisions like that in life are just little decisions in the day-to-day. Right. I think we call it like small sweet steps or baby things that happen, right? And just making that change, making the decision to literally take not even 5. I was going to say 5 minutes, but literally take a minute to turn around. She actually saved a human being, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I just pulled up because I'm like honestly not prepared for our conversation today and just kind of throwing stuff out there, being real. But the death rate for. And this is no testament to the person that was there or anything like that. And let me also do the disclaimer, right? We have no medical knowledge. Neither one of us have any medical knowledge or anything like that. We're not trying to be that way. We're just kind of having a conversation as normal human beings to get real about suicide. But this says the rate of death by suicide for people with mood disorders such as depression or bipolar disorder is estimated to be 25 times higher than the general population. Among adults diagnosed with schizophrenia, 1 in 20 dies by suicide.
Wow.
That's sorry. That's I mean, in itself is depressing, right? Like just a stat like that just doesn't feel good. And for somebody to be able to turn around and make that move, I like to think of myself as a decent person, right? But to be able to, like, I don't know if I would have, right? Like I don't know, being real, right?
Yeah.
Being real. I'm not sure that I would have. I might have said the same thing, like, oh, he's walking over the bridge, or he's
Right.
meeting a friend on the other side.
And I don't know that I would have either. But I'll tell you that my perspective is different now.
Yeah.
And I think that my hope and the whole reason why I felt like it was a good idea for us to bring this up on here after our listener commented on it was because maybe somebody that hears this will stop next time. Maybe somebody that hears this will, if there's somebody in your life that that's struggling, just call them more.
Yeah.
Be there for them.
That's a really good point, Mark. And we're getting ready to go into the holidays, right? And people are and the economy's a little rough right now for people. Things are a little challenging. If you know somebody who is in that circumstance, reach out. Don't be afraid to say hi. And
I think the worst part is in a lot of cases you don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's like more likely that someone that actually takes their own life is someone that you don't realize is about to do that. I think what it really speaks to is just as a population, we got to treat all people good.
Yeah.
Like, think about the things that you say to people on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
How you engage with folks. There's two ways you can impact someone. I don't know where I saw this. I was reading something literally before I came here. And it was saying, hey, driving to work, everywhere you go, every moment of your life, it's an opportunity to impact someone positive or negative.
Yeah.
And you have that choice to do that.
So let's start with something simple. And I'm going to put this out here. I don't know anything about it, and hopefully I'm right. But the National Suicide Prevention and Lifeline, it says it's dial 988. 988. If someone needs help, let's get them help, right? It's funny how this started, Mark, because honestly, the conversation, I brought it up to you recently too, because I'm like driving over the bridge and I was kind of in a rush, right?
Yeah.
And that probably was the same day, just so you know, like the bridge was stopped.
Right.
Right. And then where I got to my event that I was at, it was in Annapolis, and the conversation was, I think, maybe there was a jumper on the bridge, right? That was the conversation, right? And I thought to myself, like, how depressing to me is that? Like, first of all, that bridge has that, and you and I talked about it. Like, there's so much discussion about prevention on that bridge because it's become a thing, right?
A substantial amount of suicides on the bridge in the last couple of years, basically since the onset of COVID, which pushed the entire population into a mental crisis of sorts.
Right.
More drinking, more abusive drugs,
right.
more depression, higher rate of suicide. All those things happen because at the end of the day, we are naturally social beings.
Right.
So when you trap everybody in their house, it's just not a good thing because they need that social interaction. So we've had this higher rate of suicide. There's been some folks that have come along and really been advocates for some sort of barrier on the bridge, and you and I had kind of chatted about this.
Yeah,
before.
I mean, I think I disagreed with you at first because you and I talked about it a little bit, and I just thought you got a bridge that's got a short lifespan.
There's two different mentalities. Maybe there's more than two, but there's two notably different mentalities. Right.
Right.
One is, if somebody's going to take their own life, they're going to take their own life. Right. The other one is that when people are in a moment of crisis, all right, so. It already takes a lot to drive to the top of the bridge to make that decision.
Yeah.
But every time that you have to take an action towards making this decision, it's an opportunity to make a different choice. And see, my thing with the bridge has always been that it's just too simple. By the time that you've made the choice, you've already made your fate.
Yeah.
And maybe if you had to climb a step, if there
was
were
any
more,
barricade
a
whatsoever,
little bit more of a barrier
right.
might save a life
right.
or two. It's not going to save everybody. Some people are going to climb it and still jump.
Right.
Maybe they say, hey, we're not going to do it this way. We'll do it a different way. That's too hard.
Right.
Whatever. But I think that, I was an advocate for a barrier.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I saw that documentary on, and if anybody's seen it, I think it might have been on Netflix. I can't remember on the Golden Gate Bridge. right? They actually have patrols that drive back and forth looking for jumpers because there's so many of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and that so but see, to me, that's a barricade, right?
Right.
Like, let's talk about it, right? Like that's
It's
a
not a
function.
physical barricade.
No, but it's a function of some sort of something,
some
right?
sort of mechanism to prevent.
You know, I pulled up the CDC, and you know, the most reliable source for information for these sorts of things, right? Sorry, had to go there a little bit. So, suicide is the leading cause of death in the United States.
That's amazing.
It was responsible for nearly 26,000 deaths in 2020.
Wow.
Let me say that again, 46,000 deaths.
Yeah.
Right, think about that for a second. And then there were 12.2, in 2020, an estimated 12.2 million people, million adults, it says, seriously thought about suicide. 3.2 million made a plan. And 1.2 million people attempted suicide in 2020.
It's amazing.
That's a lot of people, man. That's a lot.
You know, what bugs me, I don't want to say what bugs me, because I never understand what somebody's circumstances
are. No, right.
But I think that everybody's life has so much value.
Yeah.
You know, I can think of 1,000 different examples right now of folks that were in a horrible situation.
Yeah.
That when they finally overcame it, the light on the other side was so much greater than they would have ever imagined. You know, somebody who, you know, was beaten as a child, you know, or molested
whatever
as a
the
child,
circumstances, right?
And overcame, and then maybe they went in, they were in jail. You know, maybe they were in trouble. They got out of jail. They came back. They created a business. They're impacting other people, or not just business. Because I tend to lean towards business because that's where my mind goes.
No, that's what we do. Right. I get it.
But my thing is whatever your circumstances are right now, don't define who you are or who you're going to be in the future.
No, not at all.
And I just wish there was a way that we could instill that into people so that they know that, like, whatever you're going through, it's just a storm. And on the other side, you know, the sun comes out and shines and everything is great. And I feel like people make those small decisions in those moments that unfortunately alter not just their lives, but the people around them.
You know, I'm going to throw this out there. So this is like us, you know, the total get real conversation, right? So I'm scrolling for our conversation on the CDC website. And just for the like little opportunity of information, there's like a screen here that shows how long we've been in our podcast, right?
Right.
Okay. And I happened to look just a few minutes ago, and I don't know why, but it was 11 minutes, right? And as I'm scrolling, Mark, there's one death every 11 minutes of suicide in the United States of America.
It's amazing.
So, you know, I know that's a little crazy, but I just want to say, if you...
Not amazing in a good way.
No, I know. I just want to say, you know, personally, if you are struggling or you have an issue right now, you know, reach out, call 988. That's the number. I checked on CDC's.
Yeah.
But call 988. You know what? Call us. Tell us. We'll find the right people, Mark.
Yeah.
Right? We're not that bad. I don't think. We try to be good human beings in the real world, but. You know, so if you need help, it's out there and it's available, right? There's a lot of help that's out there for you.
Yeah.
And tomorrow is another day, right? Like,
I agree.
You can, you know, things can be very different tomorrow. So I
Let me
just
ask
want to
you,
put that out there because it
before-
kind of punched me in the gut here a second ago when I saw the 11 minutes.
Yeah,
Man, I
it's
was
weird
like,
when things like that happen.
Yeah.
Right? So let me ask you: have you lost
I have
family members and
No,
friends to
I haven't
suicide?
lost. I can't think of a family member that I've actually lost, and I probably regret saying that, but I have lost friends to suicide. Yeah, have you, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. More than I'd like to admit.
Right.
So that's the scary part. So when I don't even remember how old I was. It's terrible if that's the case. But so my cousin and I grew up together.
Yeah.
You know, same age. We're like 9 months apart. And I was in my early 20s. He was in his early 20s. He took his own life.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, we still to this day walk every year for suicide prevention in Ocean City in his memory.
Good for you.
But my point is, so his circumstances were his circumstances.
I get it.
He was in a little bit of trouble. He had been in jail before. He knew he was probably about to go back, and I think that's a big part of why he made the decision that he did. But my thing is what people don't realize is how many people have been in his circumstances that have come out and been able to lead a great life. So when you're in the circumstances, it feels like the world is crashing down. But the reality is that there is a better life or opportunity for a better life on the other side of whatever it is that you're going through.
Right.
So
and I think that's the thing that really what gets to me is, we've all gone through really tough times, and sometimes we still have tough times. It doesn't go away, right? You know what I mean? Like you're going to have other tough times, and dealing with them in this way, there's always someone to talk to, always someone who can help you. You think that you're hopeless and there's no opportunity, but there is.
Yep.
Right? There's always somebody
so much
you can talk to.
opportunity, and there's so many people out there that love you. That's a rippling impact when somebody takes their own life.
And I think they just don't think about that to that extent. But
no, I think the mentality tends to be that, oh, the world's better without me. Nobody needs me here. That's the thought process. And the reality is quite the opposite. Because when somebody leaves this earth, they leave behind this earthquake of folks that they affect in a painful manner. So think about that. But before we wrap this up,
no, I'm with you.
I want to touch on the bridge thing real quick.
Yeah, let's go back into there. Sorry about that.
So when we were on that topic, I was able to use some of my resources to reach out to some folks in Annapolis to say, hey, what are you guys going to do about this?
Yeah.
And the answer was, well, we've determined that it's just not really worth the money to add something to the existing bridge.
We talked about it,
yeah. It's not really worth the money to add something to the existing bridge. We feel like it's not going to be that impactful. By the way, there have been studies done. By the way, I was provided with a report that was created and provided to the special committee within Annapolis that was reviewing this exact matter. And the report stated without reasonable doubt that placing a barrier on any bridge prevents suicides. There was a bridge in Washington, D.C. at one point in time that I can't remember the exact rate, so if I quote it wrong, don't hate me for doing that. But it was somewhere around 26 suicides a year were happening on this bridge. And when they put the barriers in place, it was less than one every single year. So that was a stark difference.
Wow.
Now, did those folks end up doing something otherwise?
We don't
Maybe.
know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We know that we prevented it from happening in that case right there. So to have that matter-of-the-fact data and ignore it, in my opinion, is wrong. It's inhumane. To say that we can't afford it is wrong, and it's inhumane. You want to know why it is? How much money does our government spend on things that they do not need to spend money on?
Well, there's always the fact, #facts,
and then tell me, what is the value of one life?
Right. What
just
is
one.
Right. And you know what?
And you can't place a value on that.
Well, are they? Right. That's the question. Are they?
Right. In their minds, they are.
Right. Exactly.
And it's something that has no value.
It's exactly right.
Well, not no value, but it's something that has no definable value. It's an infinite value because that life could go on. If that person survives whatever they're going through, they could go on to be the next person that impacts all of us in some sort of manner. So that just really struck me that was the case. The lack of action and the lack of foresight. And I think it's very easy for folks that don't have that struggle and don't go through it and haven't experienced it close to home to say no and say, oh, well, we don't need to do anything about it. It's just going to happen anyway, which is complete BS.
Yeah.
So,
no, it is. It is. And I think that's, that's why, you know what? The General Assembly needs to get real.
Yeah.
They need to get it, right? Like at this point, we need to make a change there and need to do something that's important and impactful instead of something that's not.
Yeah.
You know what?
They need to do something.
And we
even if it's a sign at each end of the bridge,
whatever it is,
that says, "Hey, don't forget, there's someone that loves you."
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, but something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean it's heartbreaking, man, and I just think that we, where we are, I hope and pray that we have if we have this much of an impact, that much of an impact on anything or anybody that we
just
can do that.
Just remember to love the people around you. Call them often. Let them know that you're there. Life is so fast-paced that I feel like people don't spend a lot of time or spend enough time with the people that they love or calling on them and loving on them. People need that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I've been somber during this conversation.
No, I know this is a little tough one for us.
When I talk about this, I get angry.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That is the emotion that pours out of me. I get so angry. I get angry because people feel that way. I get angry because people make people feel that way.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I get angry because of the lack of action based on our government.
Right, me too.
It's just the emotion that pours out.
No, and I think you have a right to that, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you have the right to do that, and you know, we're we don't, like I said, that little bit, if we have one impact at all in anybody's life, dial 988, right? Whatever it is, right? I think
dial 988, and no, look, if you don't think anybody else loves you, I love you. All right? That's it.
You get Mark's love.
That's right. You got my love regardless.
I get it. So, well, look, I think with that, we're gonna wrap up this very somber. Sorry.
Hopefully, we'll have some more fun next week.
I know we're gonna definitely have fun next week. But with that, thank you guys. And Mark, how can you find us?
You can find us on the BayNet.com/podcast. We should have a little tab on there now. We got a little tab on there?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know if we do.
We don't have a tab yet, but we should have a tab. We're on Google Podcasts.
Oh.
We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Facebook, most importantly. That's where most of our viewers watch us.
We're getting to this point now. We're asking you to share our podcast. Please share our podcast.
Yes.
Tell everyone about it. It may be a little somber today, but we're asking you guys to share it, and we hope to have a lot of fun with you in the future. So with that, we'll see you next week.
See ya.